Everyone thought she was just a maid, until the billionaire spoke up. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories like this one. Your support truly means the world to us. And I am curious, where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you so much. Now, let us return to our main character. She was standing perfectly still in the corner of the marble hallway, holding a folded stack of white linens against her chest, trying to make herself as small as possible. Her name was Elena. To everyone else in that house, she was not Elena. She was the maid. Just another uniform. Just another invisible figure who knew how to keep her eyes down and her mouth shut. The mansion around her was enormous. The kind of place where footsteps echoed even when you walked slowly. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, throwing soft golden light onto polished floors that reflected faces she was not supposed to look at. The air smelled faintly of lemon polish and expensive perfume. Elena had been working there for 6 months. 6 months of early mornings, late nights, sore feet, and quiet dignity. She earned $14 an hour. No benefits. No overtime. Just enough to cover rent for her small basement apartment and groceries if she was careful. She walked to work every day, rain or shine, because the bus pass cost more than she could spare most weeks. Still, she never complained, because complaining did not pay the bills. That afternoon, the house was louder than usual. A charity board meeting was happening in the main living room. Powerful voices carried down the hallway. Laughter. Sharp comments. The clink of glasses filled with something far more expensive than anything Elena had ever tasted. She was told to stay out of sight unless called. So she did. As she waited, her eyes drifted to the open doorway at the far end of the hall. Inside the room, men in tailored suits and women in designer dresses sat comfortably on leather sofas, talking about donations, investments, and plans for the city. Numbers were thrown around casually. Millions. Tens of millions. Amounts that felt unreal to her. Then she noticed him. He was seated slightly apart from the others, near the window. Unlike the rest, he was not dressed to impress. No flashy watch, no bright tie, just a plain, dark jacket, worn shoes, and a posture that suggested he was more interested in listening than being seen. Someone near the door whispered, "Who invited him?" Another voice replied, not bothering to lower the volume. "Probably someone's assistant. He looks lost." It's a come to Dow. Elena frowned slightly. She had learned to read people quietly. The way they held themselves. The way their eyes moved. This man did not look lost. He looked observant, calm, almost heavy with thought. A server passed Elena in a hurry and hissed, "Hey, you, take these inside, put them on the side table." Elena nodded immediately. She adjusted her grip on the linens and stepped forward, crossing the invisible line she usually avoided. As she entered the room, conversations did not stop. No one made space for her. A chair leg nearly tripped her as someone shifted without looking. She moved carefully, keeping her eyes down. As she placed the linens on the table, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Excuse me," a woman said, irritation clear in her tone. "Can you not stand there? You are blocking the view." Elena swallowed. "I am sorry," she said softly, already stepping back. Her shoe caught slightly on the edge of the rug. It was small, almost nothing, but enough to throw her balance off for a second. Before she could react, a hand reached out. Not rough. Not rushed. Steady. He caught her elbow just long enough to keep her from falling. "You are okay," the man by the window said quietly. For a brief moment, their eyes met. His were calm, warm, human. "Thank you," Elena said, surprised by how steady her own voice sounded. Someone scoffed nearby. "Careful. We do not need a scene." He's 7 plaque show. The man released his grip immediately and leaned back, as if he had done nothing at all. But Elena felt it. That small moment, that someone had seen her. She stepped out of the room, heart beating just a little faster than before, unaware that she had just passed the first, invisible test of a story that was about to change everything. That evening, Elena finished her shift long after the guests had left. The mansion grew quiet in a way that felt heavy rather than peaceful. The laughter was gone. The expensive voices were gone. What remained were empty glasses, faint wine stains on polished tables, and the soft hum of cleaning machines starting up. Elena tied her apron again and began wiping down the side hallway. Her movements were practiced, almost automatic. She worked carefully, because careless mistakes cost people like her their jobs. As she cleaned, her mind kept drifting back to the man by the window. The way he had looked at her, the way he had spoken, calm and level, as if she mattered. That kind of attention was rare. Not dramatic, not flirtatious, just human. She shook the thought away and focused on the floor beneath her feet. Elena could not afford distractions. After clocking out, she stepped outside into the cool evening air. The mansion gates loomed behind her, tall and ironed black, separating two worlds that never truly touched. She walked. The streetlights flickered on one by one as she made her way downhill toward her apartment. It was a 40-minute walk. She knew every crack in the sidewalk, every corner where the light was dimmer, every place where she needed to keep her keys clenched between her fingers. Her apartment was small, one room, low ceiling, a narrow window that looked out onto an alley where delivery trucks idled early in the morning. But it was clean, and it was hers. She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes, and sat on the edge of the bed. Her feet ached. Her shoulders burned. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. 2 missed calls. The number belonged to the hospital. Her chest tightened. She called back immediately. The nurse on the other end spoke gently but directly. Her mother had been asking for her again. The medication was helping, but the bills were piling up. The charity application was still under review. Nothing was guaranteed. Elena thanked her and hung up. She sat there for a long moment, staring at the wall, letting the weight settle quietly. She did not cry. Crying did not solve anything. The next morning, she returned to the mansion early. The house staff buzzed with quiet tension. Another meeting was scheduled. Fewer guests, but important ones. She was assigned to the back hallway again, folding napkins and refilling water trays. As she passed the living room, she noticed him. The same man. This time, he was standing near the bookshelf, reading the titles slowly, as if he had all the time in the world. Someone whispered, "Why is he still here?" Another replied, "I think he is some donor who does not like attention." Elena lowered her gaze and continued walking. A few minutes later, she heard a soft voice behind her. "Excuse me." She turned. It was him. Up close, he looked even more ordinary. No arrogance, no impatience. Just a man standing alone in a place built for people who never were. "Yes?" she asked politely. "I was told the water station was down this hall," he said. "It is," she replied, gesturing. "I can show you." She led him to the small table at the end of the corridor. As he poured himself a glass, she stepped back, already preparing to leave. "Thank you," he said. "You are welcome." He hesitated, then added, "It seems like a busy day." "It usually is," Elena answered honestly. "You work very hard," he said. She paused, surprised. "It is just work," she replied. "Someone has to do it." He studied her for a moment. Not in a way that made her uncomfortable, but in a way that felt thoughtful. "Most people do not say that," he said quietly. Before she could respond, a sharp voice echoed from the living room. "Elena, why are you standing around?" Her stomach dropped. "I am sorry," she said quickly, turning back to her task. She did not notice the way the man's expression changed. How his jaw tightened just slightly, how his eyes followed her as she walked away, head down, shoulders straight. He had come to observe people that day. What he did not expect was to find someone who did not know she was being watched at all. The test began quietly. It did not announce itself. It did not arrive with raised voices or dramatic accusations. It unfolded the way real life always does, through small moments that most people never notice. Over the next few days, the man returned again and again, always dressed the same way. Always staying just long enough to be forgotten. Always positioning himself slightly to the side, where he could see everything without being part of it. Elena noticed him, of course. She noticed how he never interrupted conversations, how he listened more than he spoke, how he waited his turn for water while others waved staff over impatiently, how he thanked her every time she refilled a tray, even when she had done nothing special. One afternoon, as Elena was stacking clean glasses near the service door, she overheard two guests talking. "I do not understand why they keep inviting people like him," one woman said, lowering her voice but not enough. "He barely contributes." A man chuckled, probably pretending to be humble. "You know how some people like to play poor." Elena froze for a second, then kept working. She had heard worse. Later that same day, she saw the man standing near the terrace, staring out at the garden. A light rain had started to fall. Most guests stayed inside. Without thinking too much about it, Elena walked over with a folded towel. "It is getting wet out here," she said gently. "You might want this." He looked at the towel, then at her. "For me?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, it is slippery near the steps." He smiled faintly. "Thank you. That is thoughtful." She shrugged slightly. "I just did not want you to fall. That was it." No expectation. No second glance. He watched her walk away, the towel still in his hands, as if it weighed more than it should have. The next morning, something went wrong. A shipment of catering supplies arrived late, and tension rippled through the house staff. The supervisor was already irritated when a guest complained loudly about the lack of refreshments. "Elena," the supervisor snapped. "Why are the glasses empty?" Elena blinked. "I refilled them 10 minutes ago." "Well, they are empty now," the woman said sharply. "Fix it." Elena hurried toward the storage area, only to find the cabinet unlocked and nearly bare. Someone had taken more than their share earlier. She returned, trying to explain. The guest scoffed. "That is not my problem. If you cannot do your job, find someone who can." The room fell quiet in that uncomfortable way where everyone pretends not to hear. Elena felt the familiar heat rise in her face. She lowered her head. "I am sorry," she said. "I will take care of it." She rushed back to the storage room and began washing extra glasses by hand, even though it was not her responsibility. Her fingers moved quickly through the warm water. She did not complain. She did not ask for help. She simply worked. When she returned, breath slightly uneven, the guest had already moved on, satisfied and unconcerned. As Elena placed the clean glasses on the tray, a voice spoke behind her. "You should not have had to do that." She turned. It was him. "It is fine," she replied. "It happens." He frowned slightly. "It should not." She hesitated, then said softly, "People forget we are here to help, not to be blamed." He studied her for a long moment. "And yet you still help," he said. She met his gaze. "Because someone needs to." Across the room, a few people watched the exchange with mild curiosity. One man whispered something sarcastic. Elena felt the shift immediately. The attention, the judgment. She took a step back. "I should get back to work," she said. "Of course," he replied. "Thank you again." As she walked away, he did not follow. He stayed where he was, absorbing the room, the whispers, the glances, the way power moved so easily between people who believed they deserved it. This was what he had come to see. And Elena, without knowing it, had just passed another test she never agreed to take. By the end of the week, the mansion felt smaller to Elena. Not because the rooms had changed, but because she had begun to notice patterns she could no longer ignore. She noticed how certain guests snapped their fingers instead of speaking. How others spoke about generosity while refusing to make eye contact with the people cleaning up after them. How power moved quietly, always favoring the same voices. And she noticed him, the man with the calm eyes. He appeared every day now, never announced, never introduced. Sometimes he stood near the windows. Other times, he sat at the edge of meetings, listening as if the conversations were not meant for him, yet somehow important. Their interactions remained brief, almost accidental. A nod in the hallway, a quiet thank you when she passed. Once, a shared moment of silence near the coffee station when the machine jammed and neither of them laughed. It was not friendship. Not yet. It was recognition. One afternoon, Elena was assigned to assist with a small lunch setup in the side garden. Fewer guests, more informality. The kind of event where people felt comfortable saying what they truly thought. She moved between tables, placing plates and straightening chairs, careful not to interrupt. As she reached for a tray, she heard raised voices nearby. "I am telling you, these workers should be grateful," a man said, swirling his drink. "They get paid to do simple tasks. If they cannot handle pressure, they do not belong here." Another voice laughed. "Exactly. Some people are just built to serve." Elena felt the words land like stones. She did not stop walking. She did not react. She had learned long ago that dignity sometimes meant endurance, but she was not alone. "Interesting," a calm voice said. The man turned. It was him. "Interesting how?" the guest asked, amused. "You speak of service as if it requires no strength." The man replied evenly, "Yet you seem quite uncomfortable without it." The table went quiet. The guest scoffed. "I am just being honest." "So is she," the man said, nodding slightly toward Elena, who was now frozen mid-step. "She is honest in her work, every day, without applause." Elena's heart skipped. "I did not mean anything personal," the guest muttered. "Intent does not erase impact," the man said calmly. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Someone cleared their throat. The moment passed, awkward and unresolved. Elena finished setting the table with trembling hands. Later, as she collected empty plates, she felt a presence beside her. "I hope I did not make things harder for you," the man said quietly. She looked up, surprised. "No," she answered after a moment. "No one has ever said that before." He studied her. "You should not have to be invisible to be allowed respect." She hesitated, then said something she usually kept to herself. "Sometimes being invisible is safer." He nodded slowly, as if that truth carried weight. "Still," he said, "you deserve better." She smiled faintly, unsure how to respond. That evening, Elena stayed late again. A guest had spilled red wine on a cream rug, and the supervisor insisted it be cleaned immediately. As she knelt on the floor, blotting carefully, she heard laughter nearby. The same guest was joking about the incident, entirely unconcerned. Her knees ached, her back burned. A shadow fell across the rug. She looked up. The man was standing there. "You should take a break," he said softly. "I cannot," she replied. "This has to be done now." He crouched slightly, not touching the rug, but close enough to lower his voice. "Do they know your name?" he asked. She blinked. "Some of them. They should," he said. "Names matter." She gave a small, tired smile. "Maybe one day." As he stood, someone called his name from across the room. "Mr. Carter, we need you for a moment." The name barely registered with Elena. It was just another name in a house full of important ones. But the way the room shifted when it was spoken did not escape him. He turned back to her, his expression unreadable. "We will talk again," he said. She nodded, already returning to the rug, unaware that the distance between them was narrowing faster than either of them had planned. The quiet test was no longer quiet, and the stakes were beginning to rise. The shift in the house was impossible to miss. By the following week, everyone seemed sharper, more alert, as if they sensed something important was approaching, even if they could not name it. Elena felt it too. Her schedule changed without explanation. Extra duties appeared on her list. Longer hours, fewer breaks. The supervisor's tone grew colder, her patience thinner. Mistakes that once passed quietly were now corrected loudly. "Elena, pay attention." "Elena, hurry up." "Elena, that is not how we do things here." "Please eat pros." And that's the grade of the sauce. She absorbed it all in silence. One afternoon, a private luncheon was added to the calendar with only a few hours' notice. High-profile guests. Donors with influence. The kind of event where nothing could go wrong. Elena was assigned to the main service area. As she carried a tray of glasses toward the living room, she felt the familiar tightening in her chest. The room was full. Voices overlapped. Power filled the air. He was there, standing near the fireplace, speaking quietly with two board members. He wore the same simple jacket, the same unassuming expression. But people leaned in when he spoke now. They listened. Elena tried not to look at him. As she moved through the room, a guest reached suddenly for a glass, bumping her arm. The tray tilted. One glass slipped, shattered against the marble floor. The sound cut through the conversation like a crack of thunder. Silence fell. The supervisor turned sharply. "What happened?" "I am sorry," Elena said immediately, her heart racing. "It was an accident." The guest frowned. "She was careless." "I was not," Elena said softly, before she could stop herself. The room shifted again. Eyes turned. Whispers sparked. The supervisor's face hardened. "That is enough. Clean it up, now." Elena knelt, her hands trembling as she gathered the broken glass. A small cut opened on her finger, bright red against the white cloth. "Careful," someone muttered. "We do not need blood on the floor." Heat burned behind Elena's eyes, but she blinked it away. She stood and carried the tray out, her finger wrapped hastily in a napkin. In the hallway, the supervisor followed. "You embarrassed us?" she said coldly. "I only told the truth," Elena replied, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. The supervisor crossed her arms. "Your truth does not matter here. And adieux." The words landed harder than any shout. "Go home," the supervisor said. "We will discuss your future tomorrow." Elena nodded. She removed her apron slowly, folding it the way she always did. She placed it on the counter and walked out without another word. Outside, the afternoon light felt too bright. The mansion gates loomed again, tall and unyielding. She walked. Each step felt heavier than the last. Behind her, inside the house, conversations resumed, glasses clinked. The moment passed for everyone else, but not for him. He stood near the fireplace, jaw tight, eyes following the direction Elena had gone. A board member leaned toward him. "Do you think she will be a problem?" He did not answer right away. "No," he said finally. "I think she already has been." "For herself," the man added dismissively. He turned then, his gaze sharp. "For all of us." The board member laughed uncertainly. "You sound serious." "I am," he replied. Later that evening, Elena sat alone on her bed, her shoes still on, her hands resting uselessly in her lap. She stared at the wall. Losing this job would change everything: rent, hospital bills, food. Still, one thought returned again and again. She had not lied, and somewhere deep inside, she knew that mattered. What Elena did not know was that her quiet dignity had just pushed a line that could not be pushed back. The test had reached its breaking point, and the man who had come to observe was no longer content to remain silent. The next morning came too quickly. Elena barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the marble floor, the shattered glass, the way the supervisor's voice had gone cold when she said, "Your truth does not matter here." She rose before dawn, dressed carefully, and returned to the mansion anyway. Not because she expected mercy, because dignity, to her, meant showing up. The gates opened without comment. The house was quiet, almost hollow. No guests. No laughter. Just the soft echo of footsteps and the distant hum of cleaning equipment. She reported to the service office and waited. The supervisor arrived 10 minutes later, holding a clipboard like a shield. "Elena," she said, not looking up. "We reviewed yesterday's incident. Commanded 2-4. Elena nodded once. "I understand. You disrupted a private event," the supervisor continued. "You contradicted a guest. You caused embarrassment. Done possibly with poiring." "I told the truth," Elena said again calmly. The supervisor finally looked at her. "That is exactly the problem." There was a pause. "We do not need troublemakers," the woman said. "Today will be your last day." The words settled into the room, heavy and final. Elena did not argue. She did not beg. She simply asked, "May I finish my shift?" The supervisor hesitated, then waved her hand dismissively. "If you want, but stay out of sight." Elena returned to work quietly. She folded towels. She wiped counters. She cleaned spaces that would never remember her name. Every movement felt deliberate now, as if she were closing a chapter carefully, page by page. Around midday, she stepped into the service hallway to return supplies. He was there, standing alone near the window, hands clasped behind his back. He turned when he saw her. "You are here early," he said. I never left, Elena replied. Something in her voice made him look closer. What happened? He asked gently. She hesitated. I was let go, she said simply. Today is my last day. His expression tightened. Because of yesterday? She nodded. They said I caused embarrassment. And do you agree? He asked. Elena shook her head. No. But agreement is not required. For the first time since she had met him, he looked openly angry. That is not right, he said. She smiled faintly. Right and fair do not always walk together. And so, and win call, and presses. He studied her, searching for something he could not name. What will you do now? He asked. I will figure it out, she said. I always do. There was no bitterness in her voice. Just resolve. A silence stretched between them. You know, he said slowly, most people would have apologized, even if they were not wrong. Elena met his gaze. I would rather lose a job than lose myself. That was it. That was the moment. He exhaled, as if a decision had finally found its shape. I am sorry, he said. You should not be punished for being honest. She shook her head. It is not your responsibility. He did not respond. Later that afternoon, Elena gathered her things. Her apron, her worn gloves, the small notebook she used to track extra hours she was never paid for. As she walked toward the exit, voices echoed from the main living room. A board meeting had begun. She passed the open doorway without looking in. Inside, he took his seat at the head of the table. The room settled immediately. We need to address staffing concerns, one board member said. There have been complaints. Yes, he replied calmly. There have. Several heads turned. There is a woman named Elena, he continued. She was dismissed today. The supervisor stiffened. That was handled internally. Then it was handled poorly, he said. Silence fell. She was honest, he continued. She was respectful. She was punished because someone more powerful did not like being corrected. A man cleared his throat. With all due respect, this is a minor issue. He leaned forward slightly. No, he said. It is not. Outside, Elena stepped through the gates one last time, unaware of what was unfolding behind her. She walked down the familiar path toward her uncertain future, holding on to the one thing no one had taken from her. Her integrity. Inside the mansion, the quiet observer had finished observing. The test was over, and the reckoning was about to begin. The living room was full, not with laughter this time, but with expectation. The board members sat in a loose semicircle, folders open, phones silent. The supervisor stood near the wall, arms folded, her expression tight. A few donors lingered by the windows, sensing that something unusual was happening, even if they did not yet know what. At the head of the room, the man Elena had known only as a quiet observer stood up. He did not raise his voice. He did not rush. He simply placed both hands on the back of his chair and looked around the room until every conversation died on its own. There has been a dismissal today, he said calmly. A woman named Elena. Several people exchanged glances. She worked here for 6 months, he continued. She showed up early. She stayed late. She did her job with care and consistency. And EXO, Police 47? The supervisor shifted. With respect, that decision was mine. He turned toward her. And that is exactly why we are discussing it, he said. A board member cleared his throat. Is this really the best use of our time? The man nodded once. Yes. Because how we treat people when no one is watching says more about us than any donation we make. A murmur rippled through the room. She was dismissed for telling the truth, he went on. Not rudely. Not publicly. Simply truthfully. And about. The supervisor crossed her arms tighter. She contradicted a guest. She corrected a false accusation, he replied. There is a difference. That. Someone near the window scoffed. She is staff. This is not her place. That was when the man finally turned fully toward the room. Let me be very clear, he said. This house exists because of the people who work in it, not despite them. Silence followed. He reached into his jacket and removed a small card, placing it on the table. My name is Daniel Carter, he said. I am the primary benefactor of this foundation. I am also the owner of this property. I'm also the Maid. Several people froze. The shift was immediate and unmistakable. Postures straightened, faces tightened. A few people looked down, suddenly uncomfortable. Daniel did not react to it. I have spent the past few weeks listening, he continued. Watching. Not as a guest. Not as an executive, but as someone you assumed did not matter. He paused, and I learned exactly what I needed to learn. The supervisor's face drained of color. Elena was treated as disposable, Daniel said. Invisible. Convenient. Until she was inconvenient. He looked around the room again. Anyone who believes that honesty is a threat is unfit to lead, he said evenly. A board member spoke carefully. What are you saying? I am saying, Daniel replied, that Elena will be offered her position back, effective immediately, with full compensation for lost wages. The supervisor opened her mouth, then closed it. And, he added, there will be changes in management, starting today. The room was completely silent now. Daniel exhaled slowly. She will be treated with respect, he said. Not because I say so, but because she has earned it. End quote. 2000. Outside the mansion gates, Elena walked slowly down the hill, her bag heavier than it should have been. Her phone buzzed. She stopped, confused, and pulled it out. A number she did not recognize. Hello? She said. Elena, Daniel's voice came through, calm but firm. Please do not hang up. She stiffened. I am listening. I owe you an apology, he said. And a conversation. There was a pause. Where are you right now? He asked. She glanced back toward the gates, still visible in the distance. I am walking home, she replied. May I come find you? He asked. Not as your employer. As someone who should have spoken sooner. Elena hesitated. Then she said, yes. Inside the mansion, the people who had dismissed her moments earlier sat in stunned silence. Outside, the woman they had underestimated stood still beneath a streetlight, waiting. For the first time, the truth had been spoken out loud, and there was no pretending it had not been heard. Daniel found her 2 blocks from the mansion. Elena stood beneath a flickering streetlight, her jacket pulled tight around her shoulders, the night air cool against her skin. She did not look surprised when his car stopped beside her. She looked tired, alert, guarded. He stepped out slowly, leaving the door open behind him, as if to show he was not there to trap her in anything. Thank you for waiting, he said. She nodded once. You said you wanted to talk. Yes, he replied. And to apologize. They stood there for a moment, the distance between them filled with everything that had not been said before. I should have spoken sooner, Daniel continued. I saw what was happening. I let it continue longer than it should have. Elena looked down at the sidewalk. You were not the one who fired me. No, he said, but I was the one who had the power to stop it. And I did not. That made her look up. Most people apologized to move on. This felt different. I did not stay quiet because I was afraid, Daniel went on. I stayed quiet because I wanted to understand who people were when they believed no one important was listening. And what did you learn? Elena asked. He met her gaze. That you were the strongest person in that house. She did not respond right away. He took a breath. I told them the truth today. About who I am? About what I saw? About you? Her shoulders stiffened. I did not ask for that. I know, he said quickly, and this is not charity, it is accountability. He explained what had happened after she left. The board meeting. The silence. The way power shifted when he finally spoke. The decision to change management. The offer to reinstate her position with full compensation. Elena listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. I do not know how to feel about that, she said finally. That is fair, Daniel replied. She folded her arms. I did not want special treatment. You are not being offered special treatment, he said gently. You are being offered the treatment you should have received from the beginning. She shook her head slightly. And what happens the next time someone does not like being corrected? Daniel answered without hesitation. Then they will answer to me. The streetlight hummed above them. Elena, he said, you did not fail a test. You passed one. Everyone else failed it. Her voice softened, but her words did not. You watched me struggle. Yes, he admitted, and that is something I will have to live with. She searched his face, looking for defensiveness, for excuses. She found none. What if I say no? She asked. Then I will respect that, Daniel said, and I will still make the changes that need to be made. Another pause. My mother is sick, Elena said quietly. I cannot afford pride. Is the mandate? Daniel did not smile. This is not about pride. It is about choice. She exhaled slowly. I will come back, she said, but not quietly. He nodded. I would not expect you to. The next morning, Elena returned to the mansion. This time, she walked through the front gate, not the side entrance. Conversations stopped when she passed. Eyes followed her. Not with contempt, but with uncertainty. Daniel stood near the staircase, waiting. He did not introduce her as anything more than herself. This is Elena, he said, and she belongs here. Later that day, Elena found herself alone in the hallway where she had once tried to disappear. She touched the wall lightly as she passed, grounding herself. She was not invisible anymore, but she also knew something else now. Justice, when it finally comes, does not erase what happened before. It only decides what happens next. And Elena was ready to choose what that would be. The house did not change overnight, but people did. In the days that followed, Elena noticed the difference in small, unmistakable ways. Doors opened instead of closing quietly behind her. Her name was spoken, not shouted or shortened, but said fully, as if it mattered. Good morning, Elena. Thank you, Elena. Could you help me with this, Elena? Names mattered. Daniel kept his distance at first. Not out of pride, but respect. He did not hover. He did not supervise her return. He allowed her to move at her own pace, to reclaim her place without feeling watched. When they did speak, it was brief and honest. One afternoon, as sunlight spilled through the tall windows, Elena found him standing near the same bookshelf where she had first noticed him days ago. You seem different, she said. So do you, he replied. She considered that. I am the same. People are just listening now. Daniel smiled faintly. They should have been listening all along. I am arsed. Later that week, the supervisor packed her office quietly. No announcements. No drama. Just a door closing. The board changes followed. New policies. Clear expectations. Anonymous reporting systems. Training that focused not on appearances, but on accountability. Daniel did not present these changes as favors. He presented them as corrections. One evening, after the house had settled into its new rhythm, Daniel asked Elena if she would join him for a walk in the garden, not as an employer, not as a benefactor, just as a man. They walked slowly beneath the trees, the gravel crunching softly beneath their steps. I need to say something, Daniel said. She waited. I did not pretend to be someone else because I enjoyed it, he continued. I did it because I had lost trust in people. In institutions. In myself. Elena stopped walking. And now? She asked. Now I know that integrity still exists, he said. I just was not looking in the right places. Tens, everyone do that. She studied him. You hurt me. Yes, he said immediately. And I am sorry. Not a polished apology, not a rehearsed one, just truth. I am not interested in power, Elena said quietly. Not yours, not anyone's. I know, Daniel replied. That is why I am standing here asking, not deciding. She took a breath. I will not be tested again, she said. You will not be, he promised. And I will not be placed above others who still struggle, she added. If we do this, we do it openly. Equally. Daniel nodded. That is the only way I know how now. They stood there, not touching, not rushing. Then Elena said, I would like to try. Slowly. Relief crossed his face, but he kept his voice steady. So would I. Weeks later, the foundation held another gathering. This time, Elena stood near the entrance, welcoming guests by name. Not because she had to, because she chose to. Daniel was introduced simply, not as a billionaire, not as a savior, but as a man who had learned something important. As the evening came to a close, a guest approached Elena and said, "You are lucky to work here." Elena smiled politely. "I am not lucky," she replied. "I am respected." Later that night, as the lights dimmed and the house emptied, Daniel handed Elena something small, a folded towel, the same kind she had once offered him on the terrace. Without knowing who he was, "I kept it," he said. "To remind myself, it's under a swell." She held it carefully. "Of what?" she asked. "Of who showed me the truth," he answered. Elena looked at him, really looked at him, and nodded. Kindness had come full circle, not as a reward, but as a foundation, and for the first time, both of them were standing on equal ground, ready to build something real.